Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of How Outsourcing Works for Small to Medium Business. And I've been excited all day about this recording that Ethan King and I are doing. It's a late Friday, end of a week, but still got the energy for this one because this is going to be a fantastic episode we're going to dive into. And as you guys know, this whole theme of this whole podcast is, when it comes to the world of outsourcing and virtual assistants and offshore, we've heard all the different words and how to describe all of it. Right? We're beyond top of funnel. Folks know that this world exists, right? The next question that I get and Ethan will share, like as he speaks in the whole world of AI and so forth, is how does this actually work, right? I mean, I get it, right? But how does this work, right? What about time zones? What about competency? What can they actually do? How do they actually integrate with my existing staff and employees, right? How can I trust, redundancy and reliability and so forth? So we'd like to try and get right down to those key points here with our guests on the show that have been knee deep in it. They understand it, and to give you precise, specific examples that you can take home. And look, you may not be in the same industry as Ethan and kind of his guests, but and our guests that are on the show, but you can apply and relate to what he's going to share. So we'll get into Ethan's background. Super excited. He and I have a long, crazy, fun history together in our journey in entrepreneurship and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. A lot of guests that are a part of that as well, and leadership. But before, as promised, like to kick off, right? So you get a quick win right at the beginning of our podcast with something you can take home and put in play. As I ask my guests and myself, we'll share just a quick tool, podcast, resource, maybe a hack that you haven't heard of before to make your life easier. So I'll let Ethan drop his first. I know he's got 10,000 of them that he shares on his speaking engagement. So maybe he's picked one out that anybody's heard of.
Man, I do, but one just dropped, I think, yesterday. OpenAI just released the ChatGPT agent, and oh my goodness, it is mind-blowing. They already had the operator that you could get at the $200 level with the pro account with ChatGPT. And what that does is it takes your ChatGPT beyond just spitting out text and images. It can actually go into a web browser, its own web browser, and do things for you, like actually execute things for you, like log in, and it can book flights for you. It can book hotel reservations, restaurants, whatever you can do in a web browser. Now ChatGPT can do it for you, automated, and they've updated it and they continue to update it. So it's called ChatGPT Agent. It's slowly rolling out to people. If you already have a pro account, then you already have it. Jump in there and start using it. So for example, something that I just used it for today is I already had this workflow where I can take a transcript from my podcast and then I dump it into ChatGPT. I built a custom GPT to take the transcript and then convert it into a blog post that's actually in my voice. So it's using my content, it's using my voice, and then now it'll publish that blog to my website. Now, I used to have to do that manually or have my VA copy and paste and log into my website and post the blog. But now ChatGPT just does all of it on autopilot. It is amazing. Wow. Yeah, you have it up on the screen here.
July 17th, right there. You weren't joking. It was yesterday.
Yep.
Man, the rate of change, man, it took 5 years to go from pagers to the flip phone. And in 5 minutes, we're just leaping to the moon and back. So
yeah.
And trying to keep up with it all, man. That's incredible. Well, great share and great specific example. Appreciate it. And you know what? I'm going to go completely on my share, go old school. A lot of you know I'm a Jim Collins person, and I talk about this a lot in the past, but I don't think I've shared it on the podcast yet. And I'll share this, right? And for those of you that have know about Jim Collins and know his book, Good to Great, all the different books he's read and so forth. And a lot of people are like, Jim Collins, doesn't he talk about Circuit City and all these kind of old businesses and so forth? The concept's relevant. Man, they could not be more relevant, right? And the thing I love about it is they're timeless. And when I read it in my 20s, I didn't quite connect as much, but I was actually president of EO Atlanta, which, Ethan and I was as well during COVID. Our EOS implementer made us read this together. And I was in the middle of growing Outsource Access. We grew to 500 people in 4.5 years. And rereading his concepts was these are the timeless principles that it doesn't matter. They're going to survive time. They're going to survive AI, right, for businesses, organizations. But what a lot of people don't know is that of all the books that he wrote, right, a lot of phenomenal, great content, and he puts tons of research in it, that if you go to his website, go to jimcollins.com and you click on concepts, right, on the left side, he's got this thing called the map, right? And on the map, he takes all the concepts from all his books and puts them into this very tight concept, right, and buckets it, right? It all comes down to these key elements. Disciplined people equals disciplined thought, disciplined action to be built to last. and all the things you know about Jim Collins, right? Level 5 leadership, the genius of the and, confront the brutal facts, hedgehog concept, right? And on that map, you can click on it and it expands on it, has a short little video explaining it, but it is a phenomenal way to really embrace Jim Collins concepts. And if you click on the little summary there, there's a 20-minute video, and literally in 22 minutes, Jim Collins unpacks probably 30, 40 years worth of research and how he takes all his concepts and put it into this tight model there. So encourage any of you to go to Jim Collins' website. It's one thing I wish you would promote and advocate more. Most people have no idea it exists. So go check that out, jimcollins.com. Go click on the map and see how he ties all his concepts together. It's some of the timeless ones that we operate by. Awesome. We got a brand new school and an old school resource to kind of bring to the table here. So now we'll jump right into talking about Ethan and his background. And so Ethan and I are both here in Atlanta, Georgia, and he and I intersected through the Entrepreneurs Organization (EO) back I'm going on 14 years now, 15 years.
Yeah.
You're right along there with me, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think you and I first met in 2014, so it's been 11 years we met. Yeah.
So we both started and both had, young companies and connected over all kinds of different subject matter. And he and I both were, co-leaders of helping build our accelerator program for EO Atlanta. And at the time, there was only like 8 or 9 members. And so, to join, EO, you have to be doing $1 million or more in revenue, but it has an accelerator program that if you're doing more than 250, but you're trying to get to that $1 million mark, it has a program that, helps support those. And he and I were kind of in charge of helping run that program for EO. And we went and learned from best practices, right? He and I are all about like dropping ego. Look, somebody's doing it better, smarter, faster. Let's go lean on it.
Yeah.
And so he and I went to one of their conferences, right? And what was it? New York and Florida. I think we saw the model.
Yeah. They were doing it right. And we just did the good old R&D, the friendly R&D, rip off and duplicate with permission. And it works, man. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If someone else is doing it great, then, implement what you can, and it doesn't have to be directly from your sector. It can be, you can get inspiration from other people who have a framework that works, and just implement it. And I actually want to point this out, Brad, because this is kind of a full circle moment with you and I talking on this podcast, because I don't know if you remember, but the first day you and I met, we just got to talking about automation and all these tools we were using. This was back in 2014. So this is way before ChatGPT and stuff. But then you and I you say, you know what, we need to go to breakfast, because we talked for like hours about automation. And then we had breakfast and we talked for hours longer about automation. And you were talking about, this is before you had Outsource Access, and you were talking about VAs. And I think we may have been talking about 4-hour work week and all these different things. So it's really awesome to see now, over a decade later, all of this has come to fruition, and we're here still talking about the same thing today, right on a public format.
No, you're right, man. I remember that breakfast at the Flying Biscuit, and we were both talking about it. And you and I both knee deep in Infusionsoft, that turned to Keep. And I know we're actually using HubSpot now, but you and I were back in the day, like tinkering and building, nurture sequences on canvases and so forth. So yeah, no doubt. I mean, hey, at least we've been consistent and kept this at the forefront, and hopefully it's translated into, some of the mild success we've had, along the way. But yeah, no, it was our first journey with the accelerator program. And, what we learned was you had to build a board. So, we came back, and the EO Atlanta program only had like 8 or 9, 10, accelerator members for many years. So we came back and said, you guys are the board. This is the key to success, the foundation. And I think, ended up growing to 40 members the next 10 months. And it's cool to see that program's continued. So that was our first experience. And then Ethan went on to kind of be president of EO Atlanta. And I was inspired and followed suit with him. And I was president during COVID years. And then he and I both served in regional levels and other things within EO, since then. So it's been a fun journey, and been cheerleader for both each other as we've been kind of going down the path. So, everybody kind of knows our story, and my journey is, as Ethan talked about, I joined EO, had a whole different company, and learned about outsourcing and offshoring and building that company in the teeth whitening space of all places. And then became a student of it, and ended up doing a ton of speaking and educating throughout, I think 90 EO chapters and so forth for the years. And then, it was my forum, and people like Ethan, they're like, Brad, you talk about this all the time. Why don't you just go launch your own company and do it yourself? And so that led us to launching Outsource Access in 2019, and it's been a crazy journey, and where we've been heading since then. And so down the road, got a chance to, cross section with Ethan, and actually, ended up becoming a client of ours, a while back ago, and going to share some of his journey. But overall has been just an advocate of VAs and freelancers, and was using, Fiverr and, Elance and Odesk back in the day as well. So, tell everybody kind of current state, where you are as the AI megaphone and kind of thought leader in a number of different capacities.
Yeah, sure. I think the thing that really has led to my success with training on AI is that I don't come from a tech background. I'm just a regular guy. I was an art major in college. So if I can figure this stuff out, then anybody can. And I've applied automation to my own businesses to help them grow, as you know. And my business, my main business, Zeus's Closet, we do custom apparel. So we do screen printing, embroidery. We're like a tattoo shop for your clothes. And we started out before that. I had a college school project that ended up becoming a real company, stuffforgreeks.com. And we make custom fraternity and sorority gear, and we outfit the frats and sororities all across the country. And it's still one of the top players in that space to this day. But I grew those companies by leveraging automation, and it just kind of came second nature to me. I'm self-taught, and I was, when you're bootstrapping a company and you don't have money to blow, you got to figure out how to do more with less. And for me, marketing automation was that outlet. So now with when ChatGPT came out 3 years ago, it had so many, it's become the buzzword. AI has just become all the buzzword. And so I've had so many entrepreneurs come to me and say, how have you been using this? And I teach it all over the world now. And it's great. I teach workshops and do keynotes and do consulting, and even built my own SaaS tool to help marketing departments scale using automation so that you can double the size of your company without having to increase headcount.
Yeah, and Ethan's been busy here. I'm pulling up on the screen for those that are kind of watching on YouTube, right? So the ecosystem of Ethan here. So we got Zeus's Closet, right? Phenomenal business here. And as I said, like a tattoo shop for your clothes, and done a phenomenal job, and being able to tap in, particularly with the film industry blowing up in Atlanta. I know some of the fun stories you shared, being able to kind of do that in the film industry. And then you got, Stuff for Greeks, which I love the fact that it's, so niche as well. I mean, being able to kind of leverage that competency and ability. And this is kind of where you did a lot of your automation and using freelancers and outsourcing, right? Kind of learning how to build and grow the e-commerce business, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, e-commerce where we started. And it was a school project where we had to create a fictitious company. And I'm dating myself, but this is back in like 2000, the year 2000. And we had to create this fictitious company. I had just pledged my frat. I was super overzealous frat guy, and I was an art major, so I was drawing all of the jackets and the t-shirts and the flyers for every fraternity on campus. So when this project came across, I was like, oh, I'm going to make a company called Stuff for Greeks. And I literally couldn't think of a better name. So I bought the domain stuffforgreeks.com. And we ended up getting real orders from people across the country who we didn't know, complete strangers.
Yeah.
Wow, we're on to something here. So still the same name, 25 years later, stuffforgreeks.com. And we've really revolutionized the way things have gone. We make these over the top frat jackets. So it's not just like the 3-letter shirts. And you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Brad has the screen up. But these over the top jackets that are really works of art, that's where we stand out from everyone else. And those along the way, those caught the attention of a lot of people in the entertainment industry. So we've had rappers wear jackets that we've made for them on the Grammy stage, like literally performing on the Grammys in jackets we've made. We've had
platinum jacket.
Yeah. Oh, the platinum. Yeah. You see, it's a 2000.
No joke.
Yeah.
No joke. All right.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. And I just love being able to, art is my passion, and being able to train others to execute the art. We have a great team now that does all the embroidery. I used to do it all myself, of course, from answering the phones to embroidering the jackets. But now we've built an amazing team, and it's just a lot of fun to see people out in the world and bring joy to them. But now to also teach other business owners how to automate a lot of the administrative processes in your business and a lot of the marketing, so that you can focus on doing what you love. Because really, we're all artists. Like every entrepreneur, even if you're a doctor, a chiropractor, a lawyer, that's your art. You're an artist and you want to do your thing. So the more you can take off of your plate, whether you're outsourcing it to a human or you're outsourcing it to an AI agent, I emphasize that you should do that. And it's really simple and easy to do once you learn a few fundamentals.
Absolutely. Now, great summary of kind of the human state and kind of what we can bring, right? I mean, there's an inner artist in everybody, and it's just kind of finding the way that you kind of communicate that. I know mutual friend, Aaron Lee had a talk on that kind of recently of, being able to tap into your inner creative. And sometimes we've lost that sometimes. So,
Yeah.
now it's cool how it's a confluence of, kind of the soft skills, the artistic skills, the technical skills. You bring it all together and it can be incredibly powerful. And when you look at the future state of marketing and what it is, it's bringing all those elements, together. So it's pretty cool to see, Ethan's full ecosystem from, the brick and mortar with, Zeus's closet to the e-commerce side to, what he's done with his speaking and the book, ChatGPT to double your business in 90 days. You can go check it out, ethanking.com. And then, give a quick glimpse into simplesuccess.ai. This is your latest, which I haven't even seen this website yet.
Oh yeah. So, there's so many tools out there that deal with AI and automation. And one of the things that we got into earlier, Brad mentioned Infusionsoft, and I was just on a workshop earlier today. I mentioned Infusionsoft. They're like, wow, you're a real OG if you know Infusionsoft. It's not even called Infusionsoft anymore. It's called Keep now. And there are a ton of other players, but it's all about being able to automate like your email drip campaign sequences so that you're not having to sit there and send out email blasts manually, but you design the workflow out once and just set it up for automated sequences. So people get tagged a certain way and they get this email sequence, like every other day they're getting an email or every other week. And we set up all these different tags and sequences. And then we automated our social media, but that was a different tool to automate our social media. And then it was a different tool that we ended up using for our CRM. So I said, you know what? I want everything to be in one place. And especially now with the AI tools out there, we have AI bots that answer the phones for us, and they sound human, like they're conversational, and they can actually help you better than a human can sometimes. And a lot of times people don't even know that they're talking to AI. So all of these different functions I brought into one place and put it under simplesuccess.ai.
Well, everybody can check it out. You can see I was kind of going through those you're watching on video. So it's touching on every dimension that, small and medium business are navigating. Right. And so, but I love what Ethan can, speak to here is, it's a blend, ultimately, right, of the creativity, right. And that's what, he and I both kind of sort of, and he's certainly way more artistic than I am, but it's like just knowing that, VAs and automation exists is one thing. It's like, oh, I know the tools are in the toolbox, right? But it takes the creativity of like, how do you assemble them and use them in the right way to create the right kind of output, right? And it's challenging, right? I mean, there's so many different knobs and levers out there and so many different things and more kind of overwhelming than ever. And, that's why a lot of business owners get paralysis analysis. They're so overwhelmed, they don't even move. And particularly right now with AI producing stuff every 2 seconds. So it's more than ever, it's kind of a place where you have to just take 3 steps back. And, I think more than ever now, Ethan, people are gravitating towards know, like, and trust, right? I mean, people are getting so overwhelmed from vendors on things that it's going back to like, I'm just shutting it all down. I'm going to wait till somebody pops up that I can know, like, and trust. And that speaks more to, creating content like this, right? And like what you're doing, that people can kind of connect with individuals that, they can believe in and trust, right? I always use the analogy of old Dave Thomas and Wendy's, right? Remember when Dave Thomas, right, was the face of Wendy's? I still remember his gray hair and kind of the, the blue apron and the white shirt, like, but you bought because of Dave Thomas, right? As him, as an individual. It wasn't the Wendy's brand was subordinated. It was like Dave Thomas is who people connected with. And I always thought that was such a brilliant, way back in the day. He was, an influencer, at the end of the day, and kind of creating humanity, to the brand. So now more than ever, I think we're kind of moving, in that direction. So, well, awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing your path and journey. And so we'll jump into, a couple specific examples. So in your world and using, like I said, you've been involved and gone down this path for a number of years, and we got a chance to intersect and work with you. And look, hey, we've got people on here who are clients, some that are not clients, right? At the end of the day, I'm just an advocate for going down this path. And if anybody's heard me speak on it, I mean, I've helped 4 people launch in the Philippines and become competitors of mine to Outsource Access. I got an abundance mentality around this. It's just go down the path. But Ethan, if you don't mind sharing with everybody, kind of your entry point. I mean, I think it's been a couple of years now that we've been working with you specifically with an executive VA. And that's the thing, when you say VA, right, it can mean a trillion different things. Like what somebody's doing for somebody like Ethan in his world is very, very different than, someone in, a barbecue chain that we have actually that has, several staff, with us. But kind of going down before you began the journey with us, sort of even with all your experience, what were some of what I call DFCs, doubt, fears, and concerns about it being successful for you? And, based on you, I'm sure had failed experiences in the past before you kind of went down the path. And then I'd love for you to share just maybe 3 or 4, granular specific examples for everyone to hear exactly how you're using, your VA.
Yeah, sure. Well, before I started working with Brad's company with Outsource Access, it was the default answer when you need something done is once you've hit capacity, you can't do it yourself, is hire people to come in-house and do it. And that gets expensive. And when we have a very seasonal business with Stuffer Greeks and Zeus's Closet, it gets like slow during the summers and peaks back up when the school season is in and homecoming and the holidays. But when you hit those slow peaks and you have someone sitting at your desk and now I have payroll, I'm like, oh my God, I got to figure out how to pay all these people, keep them around. So that gets stressful. So we had to learn how. So that's one problem you run into. But then I was like, okay, well, do we really need all of these people in house? And all of us learned through COVID that you probably don't need as many people to come in the building as you used to. You can get a lot done remotely. So then I would go out and try to hire VAs on my own, which is great. For freelance projects, I would go to like Elance, I think it's Upwork now, and Fiverr.com. It's great for those type of projects. When we need full-time staff, and you can even go to something like, onlinejobs.ph and hire somebody on your own, but you have to manage that person. You have to show up. And if that person doesn't show up, then you're left holding the bag, and now you have to start the process all over again. And those were some of the hurdles that I was going through. And I was like, man, I am just tired of reinventing the wheel every time and going back and retraining people and running them through the SOPs. So I've been following Brad and watching the growth of his company, and had a call with them. And one thing that really stood out to me is that you're not just hiring a person, you're hiring a team. Every call I get on they have these monthly check-ins, and there are like 5 people on the call. So my assistant, Raph, she's amazing. She's awesome on her own, but I know that she has people keeping her accountable as well, because she's got managers right there, and they're checking in every day. I get a report. Here's what I did today. Here are the challenges I'm facing. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And it's like this, the accountability, the transparency, the reporting is something that I wasn't getting when I was doing it all on my own. And they're creating SOPs, standard operating procedures, of everything Raph is doing for me every day. So if, God forbid, something happened to Raph, they can plug somebody else in. I have a manager that can kick in temporarily till we get a new VA in place. All of my processes are documented. They're recorded, so that I don't experience disruption. And that was one of the main things that sold me with Outsource Access, and why I've continued to stick with them.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Well, it's that's kind of the intentionality, and honestly, all of you that encouraged me to go down this path was kind of figuring out what are the failure points that other people have experienced, and as in my journey with, having another company and using different organizations, and yeah, I mean, some of the gig economy platforms, make sense for certain elements. I mean, we even still use, Fiverr and Upwork for certain, things. But when you're looking for someone to truly be a fully integrated, consistent, ongoing person, a part of your organization that you're putting institutional knowledge into, that, I mean, you're putting dependency of your business, sustainability, just like, when a full-time staff that, if something happens, right, it's going to be an impact on the business. You got to ensure that there's that sustainability. And so, and again, there's a bunch of great companies out there that do what we do. And that's why, I chose, based on the failure points, to incorporate, and hire everybody as full-time employees in the Philippines. Right. And, a lot of people know we chose the Philippines because it's English speaking. The U.S. controlled it till like 1950 or so, because it's, there's Americanized culture. So there's not as much of a culture gap, right? For somebody from the Philippines to work side by side with Ethan and his team in terms of language, communication. I mean, they've got Outback Steakhouse and no Taylor Swift better than we do. So there's not as much of a culture gap there. But the other thing is Ethan's talking about, and again, this is what I encourage, whatever path you go down, is you can definitely, right, go give gig economy. If you're looking to bring on somebody to be a part of your team ongoing, is, probably look for a firm that's committed to overseeing and managing, because you can go to the gig, you can go to different like job boards and bring someone on, but they may be doing other work, right, or working for another company, and you put 2 months in, and all of a sudden they disappear because they found they could make a few more dollars on another website, and then they're gone, right?
Right.
Then there's companies that will find you somebody, right? They'll pay a fee and they can find you somebody. And then, you pay that fee, then they're yours to kind of manage and work with, but no guidance, no oversight, no management. They're not plugged in and a part of a company and a culture on the other side. And the same kind of thing, can happen. Not that it can't work, right? My very first journey was down that path, and I, ended up being able to find somebody, but I poured heavily into them and showed them the career path and opportunity, ahead. But a lot of people, in today's world, they want to take advantage of the lower cost offshore piece, right? And look, we're not as cheap, obviously, as going and hiring someone direct. There's a different, cost there. Any other agencies like myself, you'll find there's a little bit more of an expense. But what you are getting is a team. You're getting infrastructure. You're getting a playbook. I mean, I think probably your playbooks is 70, 80 pages at this point to kind of keep that documentation, so you have the redundancy. And then also somebody to help you in that journey. To the theme of this whole podcast, a lot of people don't dip their toes in the water because they're scared, right? And so it's about trying to find a company that will embrace you in that process, really understand your business, and really kind of be a consultant and advisor, not just giving you somebody, as a low-cost staff that can plug in. Because even, with Ethan being as experienced, right? A lot of times people don't know what they don't know of how do I communicate, right? What are they capable of to bring additional ideas for them to kind of step into and, and kind of support them. So I appreciate that perspective. And that's, again, any path you go down, those are some questions to ask. What kind of redundancy, what kind of training, what kind of culture, so that they're bringing people in that want to stay, long-term. I mean, we have our own magazine in the Philippines that we launched, to distribute to the universities. We start our own kind of video, like little morning TV show over there. So it's about celebrating them and bringing them into the journey as well. So, yeah. So cool. That kind of brings kind of Ethan's perspective on it. And so if you kind of think about some of the things she specifically did.
I like about it, Brad, and I asked you this question when you gave a talk recently with EOX. I was like, what is it about the Philippines? So I don't know if it's cultural or as far as Philippines, or cultural as far as your company, or maybe a little bit of both. But what I love is the attitude of an ideal team player. And if you read the book Ideal Team Player by Patrick Leoncini, he talks about humble, hungry, and smart being the qualities that you should look for in your team members. So whether you're hiring people on your own or you're going through a service, those are the three qualities you should look for. And I will say that everyone I've encountered at Outsource Access has those three qualities: super humble, super hungry, meaning, ambitious. Like my VA will go out and learn a whole new platform. Like I'll ask her to do a task like, hey, do you think you could do this? And she will just go and learn an entire new platform and come back like, yeah, I did it. I signed up for it. Let's go. And she'll get it done. It's just that get it done attitude. So humble, hungry, smart. I love that. And really keep that up, that culture going.
Well, I mean, and it goes back to like Jim Collins I shared as, one of the tips. And that's kind of one of the guiding principles for us is, one of his things is about, level 5 leadership. And what's the difference between level 4 and level 5 is humility. When he studied all the companies in history, the ones that really excelled, it were leaders that were in it for something bigger than themselves. And we tried to imbue that, and certainly, try to keep that front of mind, certainly falls short, but trying to always keep that, front of mind of, reminding all of our employees that, we're in it for something, bigger than ourselves. And then the second thing is people feeling like that they exist. I think human beings fundamentally, aside from good compensation and good, health and benefits, and we provide the best health insurance in the Philippines and so forth, they just want to know that they're recognized and they exist. And so I would commit hours of time writing personal welcome messages to every single staff, asking about their families and, what books are they reading and so forth. And I mean, it was crazy. Like, we would celebrate our staff and, keying off actually Vern Harnish, if you recall, he talks about this whole, how you did it, right? Don't just give one way appreciation, but ask people, tell me, how'd you pull it off? Like, I mean, Ethan just gave great feedback about how you're supporting him, right? Like, tell me how you did it. And man, we would have VAs and we would do that in the whole company chat board. And we had this one that just she just went on and on about Henry Ford. She had read, some young Filipino grew up in a small village in the Philippines, knew everything about Henry Ford. Wow. And that's what inspired her. Right. So you never know what's inside until you ask, those questions. And so, to that point. Right. And, and again, this is it's kind of fun. Again, no matter what path you go down, but, we do all these fun interviews with all of our staff. Every time I go to the Philippines, I do 20 or 30 interviews and just ask them about their life and their journey, and their path and, kind of where they've come from. So it's a lot of this path of getting beyond the fear is, go into their world and understand, because it's not at all what, a lot of people, perceive it to be. And what I was showing before is these playbooks, right? That's another thing I would encourage everybody to ask, as Ethan was talking about, is make sure these companies that you're working with, they do have playbooks that are documenting processes. I mean, this is a sample one that kind of shows on the back end of what we do, everything from the game plan, and then every single process you have documented. So the redundancy's there, right? So as Ethan talked about, if for some reason his VA, something happened, or she you need to take off, right? There's redundancy there, and somebody can kind of step in. And, and Ethan owns that, from day one, right? Although that playbook and process, which is a key part of making sure that the ongoing support is there in the process. So awesome. Well, if you could let's jump into some key specific things, that you've been having her do in the business. If you could kind of talk about maybe a couple different dimensions, operational things or finance things or marketing things. I know it's kind of a broad spread, but love everybody to hear some granular examples.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first thing that was the easiest button for us is to have her reply to the sales and the service emails. So like any business, you're getting a bunch of email inquiries and you got to respond and give people quotes, and it gets kind of repetitive and redundant. Well, Raph took that right off of our plates. We trained her on how we communicate, how our pricing works. And so she handles all of those emails. If she has a question, she'll leave it in drafts and let us know. Even customer service issues, she'll go ahead and respond, give people an update on their order. She'll communicate with our production team and say, hey, make sure you move this one up because this person has a wedding coming up and they're going out of town. So maybe they could get their order a little bit early. It just makes the process so seamless. And we haven't had to hire another in-house staff to handle that, because we used to have like 2 or 3 people just managing email and phones. And now we haven't had to do that.
So this is stuff for Greeks and for Zeus's Closet, like just handling all like inbound customer service related things in terms of related to orders and order processing and so forth. So she's handling that interface with all the customers that's coming in digitally by email and also doing some phone.
She doesn't do phone. So we do have AI phone systems. And
of course you do.
and we also handle it ourselves. But she handles it for both companies, all of the email requests, things like that, and also intercommunication within the company as well. So she's in our WhatsApp group. We have a company WhatsApp community, and she's a part of the team just like the rest of us. And she communicates with all of our team members, our designers, our production, our sales, and just really keeps the wheels moving of the company. So she's been great.
So kind of a central operational resource, right? So your journey, right, was at the end of the day, as you're growing, you get seasonality, right, in terms of cost infrastructure, right? And as I share with people, this isn't really about trying to replace jobs or ship things overseas, right? At the end of the day, small to medium businesses, right, there's just only so much that's there, right, from an economic standpoint. So it's either you don't have somebody at all. And when I talk about a lot of times is going offshore, gives an affordability path. It's kind of a release valve, right? So either your existing say, hey, folks, we got to cut headcount and all of you are going to have to work 20 more hours per week, right? Which isn't good for anybody from a culture standpoint and from a workload and burnout. But this kind of creates a path to bring someone that's competent, engaging, that can integrate into the business. And a lot of people that are listening, right? I mean, listen to what she's doing, right? She's doing full interface with customers, with your internal operations and employees, right? So that requires good communication, good organization, detail. We got a big painting company in Philadelphia that went from 4 to 8 million, and they started with 1, went to 3, and their very first VA with us in the Philippines, like interviewed all their employees and wrote all their SOPs for their entire company, right? I mean, she wrote them herself, right? So it's these things, and that's why I love sharing these examples like what you're sharing, is that the perceptions people have about what they're capable of, and, oh, they'll never be able to do that, and they'll never be able to learn it, right? But using documentation, screencasting, I know you guys are using tons of, Loom and other things to kind of, show processes and so forth. That's a great kind of foundation. So that's kind of the core of what she's, supporting you guys in.
Yeah. Just as a side note, I was on a tech tip. So Loom is great, but what most people don't realize is that Zoom launched a Clips feature, which is a direct competitor to Loom. And most people have a Zoom account now because of post-COVID. In a post-COVID world, we were all on Zoom. So if you have Zoom, go look for a feature called Clips. And it does the same thing that Loom does. So we were paying for 2 different subscriptions, and we were like, well, let's just use Zoom Clips. And that's where you just record these quick videos of whatever's on your screen. It takes 2 seconds. You just send somebody a link. That's one of the most efficient ways to train somebody or to communicate on a process.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I've gotten so addicted to Loom because of the AI, and it does all the screenshots and the process documentation too. Now they've added that component to it, but I'll have to check the Zoom clips. So, well, cool. Was there any other kind of key things you can kind of drill in for everybody as far as other specific elements that she's done or helped with, or any particular project that stands to mind?
Yeah. So project-based stuff is great. Every year we run a Jacket of the Year contest. So this is like we take our top jackets, our staff picks, and then we actually contact the customers, and we have this voting mechanism online. It generates a lot of traffic to our website and to our social media, and a lot of excitement around these really elaborate jackets amongst each other. The customers kind of compete amongst each other, but it takes someone to manage that. And Raf has really jumped in and taken control of that. She even took, because we were doing it an old way. We had like some antiquated tech that we were using to run the contest. And she went and created a completely new thing on her own. It's like, we can manage it this way, and it looks better than what we had. And we didn't even have to tell her like step by step, do it this way. She took her own ingenuity and came up with that. So she went above and beyond.
I appreciate it. That's I love. And again, back to the point, I'll do some great shout outs to her, kind of the things that you shared. But it's, again, that's the beauty as well, is like, I mean, a lot of people in these countries, they're hungry to learn. They've been given a path and a career opportunity here. So, they're hungry to continue to explore and learn. And so, they'll take the initiative. And that's part of it. We try to, we have a whole, even since you began with this, we added last year a chief learning and training officer that came to us from Taskus, one of the biggest companies over there. And so we do training and learning and development. So we spend about 30 grand a year on learning and training platforms that anytime our clients want somebody to do something extra, we'll go in, we'll get the training content and kind of bringing in to train them on that, in that. So that's a great another example. And you said is there any other thing that she kind of took on and learned in terms of processes or tools or technology or anything, any other specific areas where she's had an impact?
Well, so obviously I'm big on AI. So she's using the AI tools that we've built, like, for example, custom GPTs to speak in my brand voice. So that way, so I've trained my ChatGPT exactly how to sound like me and what I would say. So when Raf uses that, now she can speak in my voice authentically. So we're leveraging, and she's using Simple Success for some things. So by leveraging AI, you can multiply the output of your VA, because now your VA can do so much more because they're utilizing the AI and automation tools to do, like, probably today, one VA can do what it would have taken about 5 VAs if you go back a few years ago. So, I mean, she's just been phenomenal.
That's awesome, man. It's the human plus the AI, right? And it's like the AI, eventually it'll get to some place where we wake up in the morning and, like, it'll instantly brush our teeth for us and deliver us 100 qualified leads and, solve all of our parenting challenges and all that. But, in the meantime, particularly, and that's what we've done in a lot of industries, is we've mastered the software applications and been able to kind of be the VA, plus AI, and train them all in GPT and so forth to kind of, add value as they're going down the journey. So,
yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Well, those have been great examples. And I don't know if there's any of else, Pac. I know we're kind of top of the hour. And I know you're a man in demand. Probably got another thing you got to jump to.
Yeah, I got another one lined up. I just texted her and said I'll be a few minutes wrapping up a podcast. But I did want to leave people with just kind of this mindset, because you shared the Good to Great, the Jim Collins tool. And what I want people to really grasp and understand, and this is what I teach in my workshops and in my trainings when I go into companies, is that content has evolved to the point where we've been used to consuming content, watching videos, reading books, reading blogs, listening to podcasts. But now we've entered an era where people want to communicate and converse and chat with content. So what I would do, and what I will do, that resource you shared, I'm going to go and look at the PDFs he has on there. Good to Great is a great book. I've bought it multiple times. I probably have it in every version, hardback, paperback, audiobook. But you can go out there and get a free PDF also, put it into the brain of a custom GPT, and now you can talk to the book. Basically, you can talk to Jim Collins as if he were your coach or your mentor, and ask what he would do in certain situations. Ask what framework. I've done this with so many mentors of mine, if you will. I was watching a video on YouTube about Mr. Beast. And Mr. Beast is the top influencer of our time. And there was this one video that someone put out with all these interview clips of Mr. Beast. And he's giving these golden YouTube tips. And I mean, he immersed himself in YouTube, and that's how he figured out and cracked the algorithm. And he'll spend $10,000 on just a thumbnail just to get it right and test out different ones and the titles and the descriptions and then the hooks. And you and I were talking before the call about the hooks and the retention and keeping people retained. And Mr. Beast, this YouTube video I watched was just Mr. Beast breaking down all these gems for like an hour. So I took the transcript of that YouTube video. I built a custom GPT of Mr. Beast. And so now whenever I have a YouTube idea or even a podcast episode, I'll run it through that Mr. Beast GPT to get pointers on What title should I use that's going to make it go viral on YouTube? How should I write the description? What should I move and put as the opening hook so that I can get the most retention? I'll run ideas about it. And it is just, because he thinks about things in a way different way than I think about things. So it'll give me a whole different format for the content. So those are gems that I want people to think about. Like, how can you interact with content instead of just consuming it?
That is fantastic, man. We're amping up our whole YouTube channel as we've been kind of launching it aggressive with our podcast. And so you'll have to send that, the exact one to me. Cause with our marketing team, right, I'm kind of getting them to consume and look at, best practices, deep in GPT best practices and so forth, but to your point is not just one way consumption, but how to make content interactive and work for you. Right. And being able to go in and engage. I've created a Brad's Coach, custom project, and I've uploaded every single assessment that's ever taken, right? Everything predictive index, and which, by the way, is part of what we put all of our VAs through, to your point about finding people that have the right kind of core values and humility and so forth. That's a key one that we love, predictive index. But I loaded every single thing ever about me. And I know a lot of people on here, but if you haven't gone in and created a custom GPT coach for yourself, it's like talking to somebody who knows the deepest, darkest parts of your soul, right? Yeah. that you never knew. It's pretty, enlightening, but no, that's a great one. Yeah. So we'll put in the show notes, and I'll have to get from you right after this kind of the link for that one for Mr. Beast. Cause it's unbelievable how powerful. And our kids, right? And, Ethan brag on his kiddos, and his daughter's like a YouTube sensation herself, and she's getting, acting deals, and she needs to, actually, I need to bring her on next and let her do nothing but a YouTube masterclass. She probably knows it better than both of us.
Yeah, she would love to come on. In fact, she's flying out tomorrow. She's going to be in a sitcom, and they start filming tomorrow. So super excited for her career, and she's a scholar too. So I'll tell her you gave her a shout out. But yeah, absolutely. You haven't created a coach for yourself, like Brad said. I actually, at the end of my book, in my book, ChatGPT to Double Your Business in 90 Days, I break down how to create a future version of yourself, the ideal future you, to be your mentor from the future. And I walk you through it step by step. So many people have written me about how it is just mind blowing. I had someone in tears, Brad, in one of my workshops. They were just in tears after going through the experience of creating their future self. So AI goes beyond just the day-to-day rudimentary admin work. This really can help you step into a whole nother lifeline and design the exact life that you want to live.
Yep. You just gotta be willing to take that step. And, no matter where you are in your path, you just can't have your head in the sand. I know we talked a lot about Jim Collins, but one of my favorites is the Stockdale paradox, right? It's like, look, full faith and confidence that we're going to be successful in the end, right? But I got to face the brutal facts right now of my reality. And no matter what industry that you are in, right, it is getting disrupted at a rate of craziness, right? Doubling every 5 months, not every 5 years, right? Embrace it, start building that muscle. And, a lot of people think, oh, I'm in my 50s and 60s. It's not going to, impact my generation. Incorrect, right? I just sent both of my parents the AI Driven Leader by Jeff Woods. I said, both of you need to read this so that you can relate to your grandchildren over the next 10 to 15 years. Trying to get everybody to, embrace it. So, and all the tips that, Ethan's shared here. And if any of you are, in an organization, if you're an EO chapter, you're in a YPO chapter, got lots of followers and all of those, I cannot say enough about his engagement and speaking event that he does. The feedback is phenomenal, high takeaway value, super granular. You walk away with a game plan, right? Whenever you do your workshops.
Oh yeah. You do the work right then and there. It's not like keynotes or workshops where you learn something and then maybe you go home and do it later. You might be all pumped up, but how many times have we been to a learning event where we didn't actually take action on what we learned? So that's why I said, you know what? We're going to do the work right there. You have your laptops. I make everybody bring your laptops, bring your iPads. Most of the chapters I speak at, they even let people bring a key team member, and we get the work done right then and there. So whether you're coming in having just started using ChatGPT yesterday, or whether you're already advanced and you've built custom GPTs and make automations and innate in automations, it doesn't matter. Everyone leaves with something, with some knowledge that they can apply. Because we're staying cutting edge. We're using this every day and we're applying it to our businesses. So whether you're B2B or B2C, we're all in the P to B business, people to people, human to human. So it applies to every single business, and we're using it every single day. So I'm not just throwing a bunch of tools at you that, oh, this is cool and you can do this. No, this is actual practical business and life use. You got to strip away all the noise sometimes, because it's easy to go down a rabbit hole, right? I've played around with Google's VO3, and the new video that has sound now. And I'm like, oh man, this is cool. I signed up for the account. It's a couple $100 a month. I'm like, I don't really have a practical business use for this right now. I mean, I see where it's going, but right now, today, what business owners need more than ever is we need something to grab onto. We need some consistency. We need some certainty, because for the past 5 years, it's been a whirlwind of unpredictability and uncertainty, from COVID and the ripple effects of that in the economy to tariffs and everything. It's always going to be something, but it's just been a disruptive past few years. And I'm telling you, I talk to entrepreneurs every day, and it's like people are in this whitewater rapids, and the current is pushing us around, and people are just looking for something to grasp onto, like a branch to hold on to. And I believe that AI is the gift we've been given in all of this. And it is that branch that you can hold on to, that can, if you just take the time to dive in and learn it, it can take your business to the next level. And yes, it's always changing, but I subscribe to podcasts like the AI Daily Brief, AI Explored, where every day you're learning what's happening in AI, and it's just coming into your ears. I follow Marketing School is another one of my favorite podcasts. And of course, shameless plug, check out King Moves, which is my podcast with my buddy, Justin King, who's based out of South Africa.
Oh,
yeah, where you get the double whammy of the American perspective and the South Africa perspective. So you're getting a global perspective, and you're keeping up on the latest trends in AI, business, leadership, entrepreneurship. So definitely check that out as well.
That's right. We've got one additional element of the Ethan King ecosystem with his podcast as well. We'll pull that up and share. So yeah, everybody, fantastic way to close from a mindset standpoint, kind of where we are. I mean, it is, if you look at the snapshot in the last, couple hundred years since the dawn of time, I mean, this is a sliver, but so much the rate of change in the last, 100 years of since the dawn of time, of thousands. I mean, we're lucky, but bit of a stressful time to kind of be in, right? We all kind of get it. But as Ethan's talking about, just choose somewhere to start. And I would encourage as well, depending on what your capacity is, and kind of embrace, and some people can multitask better than others, but just if you do choose something, right, then throw a few blinders on, right, at least for like 30 days, and then just execute that one thing, right? And we know it's a lot more fun as entrepreneurs, to get endorphin hits, to consume the next piece of content. But take a moment to implement and execute on just, one thing, to get, confidence, to see it all the way through. And, just like we're talking about with virtual assistants, that was the same journey I had when I was speaking. I'm like, hey, there's a zillion things you can do. I would share my speaking, 30 case studies and examples, but hey, we would end it with an automate and delegate roadmap. It's like, hey, just choose one thing that you can do to build confidence in this journey, and then let the snowball kind of go from there. And it's the same thing, with AI. So all the things we shared, got a lot of different tools and resources, and, and Notebook LM, throw one last tool in there, since we're going to make this the most tool-intensive podcast you've ever heard. But I was sending to Ethan right before this. You can literally upload a piece of content, and it will create a 2-person podcast of 2 human beings interacting and talking about your content. It's crazy. Like, we uploaded our whole playbook for commercial real estate, 30 pages long of all the detailed stuff we can do in real estate. It can be a little dry. Uploaded it. And it's like a guy and a woman sitting there bantering and laughing, talking about all these tasks that we're doing, that I can literally go publish that as a podcast. A commercial real estate agent probably is going to enjoy listening to that 15-minute banner than going and watching a 29-page PDF, right? So yeah. Anyway, we could go on and kind of bury you, but choose one of the crazy things that we threw your way here. Check out Ethan's book, check out his website, and I'll kind of throw back up here real quick on the kind of the things that you can kind of check out. Go to ethanking.com. It's kind of got all the stuff that's going on with him, and can't encourage enough for him to speak and engage for your chapter, for your event, for your forum, for virtual or kind of in person. I know you're kind of doing all those, but just follow him on all the social channels. Just great content to consume and add value. John Sinet is one I just popped in my head when you're talking about. Actually, I saw him speak at the EMP program. One of the best kind of future kind of speakers I've seen out there. Thought I'd share that briefly. King Moves, Ethan's website. Go check that out. And the last thing I'll share for everybody here, if you'll shoot an email to tools, right? On your cell phone or whatever you kind of got there, shoot an email to tools@outsourceaccess.com and put Ethan in the subject line. We know where it kind of came from. We'll send you a bunch of tools and resources. And one of the elements we've got to kind of help you begin your journey is, and we're actually got a custom GPT called the Gap Finder, actually, that is about to be released. That's going to take this concept and put into a custom GPT web-based application. But in the meantime, we got an old school Google template. If you'll send an email to that, don't have to write an email or content. Just put Ethan in the subject line. We'll send it to you. But it's basically a quick thing that just the simplest is a 2-question exercise, right? That helps you begin this journey. When you want to go down, it's either things you want to get off your plate and how many hours you're spending on it, or things that you're not getting to in life and business, right? That you due to time, money, or knowledge constraints. So we'll send you a quick little Google template. You can go, there's a video here of me kind of explaining it. We've done over 4 or 5 million hours worth of tasks over the last 6 years. So we've taken the top 700 and put them in the sheet. So you can just scroll right through it. See all the things that a VA and an offshore staff can do across marketing, operations, sales. Heck, if you want to, go take this and copy and paste it and put in custom GPT and see how it could extract things applicable for you. And then we got kind of a little exercise where you can do this with yourself or your organization. And I'm telling you, take these 2 questions, copy and paste them, and send them to your staff and say, hey, we're going to meet in a week. I want you to brain dump things you're doing aren't the best use of your time. And what do you think we should be doing we're not getting to? I guarantee you it'll create a runway. We've done this with startups to a $300 million pharmacy we were working with, came with 100+ items. And every time the owner's like, John, you got 40 things on here. Why did you never tell me? Well, you never really asked me, right? So it's about figuring out where those constraints are in the organization that can kind of keep you from moving ahead. So it's a great little beginning joint to begin the process. So, well, Ethan, as I knew this would be a fantastic, went over time here and on our typical time, but hopefully everybody's going to get tons of value. I know they will. Energy, the content. I know we both got things to kick off here on our Friday, but thanks so much, man. Look forward to continuing to be a cheerleader in your journey, and thanks for the opportunity to support you, and looking forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brad. It's been great.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.